Flosstube, this is Jenny McStitcher. I'm sitting down today to make my second Flosstube video. My first one was 2 weeks ago, and today is May 4th, 2019, day 4 of Stitch Mania. So far, Stitch Mania has not been going super well for me. I am a challenged starter. I just don't ever start something new really smoothly. I tend to take a little while to orient myself to a new project, new count, new everything. I think there's something to be said about always using the same fabric, because then maybe that would be simpler, but mine are all over the place and I've had 2 significant fails. But anyway, you know, I had to get back on here because I've been meaning to get back on here for over a week. I was overwhelmed by the response to my first video, and I don't want to go on too much about that because I could go on about that for a long time, and I don't want to. So let me just say thank you to everybody who watched my video for taking 50 minutes, that's what it wound up being, 50 minutes out of your time to listen to me and look at my projects and to encourage me to make more videos. It was really quite moving to me that so many people did that. It was lovely. So thank you. Also, I wanted to say thank you to Misty Pursel, who shouted me out in such a nice way, and really between Misty's shout out and all of the subscribers and likes and comments on my first video, I feel quite certain now that there was room for one more Flosstuber out there, and I'm sure there's room for more. It seemed to me like there were tons, and now that I'm subscribing to a bunch and looking for more, it's like there aren't enough. So it's a funny feeling of a lot and not enough. Anyway, so I just wanted to again say thank you, and I'll probably say thank you 12 more times before this video is done. But I'm going to try to keep it shorter. So last weekend, I took my tablet to my sewing room and I sat down and I pulled all my finished pieces off the walls, and I wanted to show you, before I even started Stitch Mania, I wanted to show you some of my finished pieces. Some of my framed and finished up on the wall, big, huge pieces. But every time I started that video, a dog would bark like crazy, or my daughter would come in, or knock on the door. Just stuff happened, and I realized I don't know how to edit videos. So every time something happened, I would say, and I would stop, and then I would start again. So I wasted some time. You know, not that it was a waste of time, because I learned what sounds stupid. I learned some of the things that sound stupid. And so, but I was kind of feeling a little bit of frustration. So I decided to call my son's best friend. Actually, I decided to call my son, and he suggested that I call his best friend. His best friend still lives here in our hometown. My son lives in Montreal. I think I mentioned that before. So Alex came over and taught me how to do a couple of techniques on video editing, so that if I fall off my chair, or I don't know what could happen. Let's not put that out there. All of the things that could happen, if they happen, I now know how to edit them out. I think I know. I knew when he was sitting beside me anyway. We'll see how it works in the real world. Anyway, it was wonderful to see him. He's my favorite kid who's not my own. He spent his childhood at our house. He's my son's firmest best friend, I think, in the world. I don't know if they call each other besties. Maybe, I don't know if they do, but they are. And I watched him grow up. I've known him since kindergarten, and he's grown up. He's 20, probably going on 24, and he's, you know, making his way in the world. He's a very, very good teacher. He should be a teacher. I'm going to put that out there on YouTube. If you would like to subscribe to his YouTube channel, I'm going to link to it below. He is Mr. History. And he has a lot of top-notch video editing skills, which he tried to pass on to me, but you know how that goes. He made a video intro for me, and I'm going to attach that to this video. I can't take credit for it. Credit is all Alex's. So thank you, Alex. Now I'm going to show you my second finish in this Songbirds series by Cottage Garden Samplings. I finished this on May 1st. I know I was supposed to start only new things on May 1st for Stitch Mania, which I'm doing one new start every day of the month for. But I was so close to finishing on Tuesday night, which was the end of March, that I couldn't not finish it in the morning. My eyes were closing. It was past midnight on Tuesday night, but I had to get up at 6 a.m. and finish this piece so that I had it out of the way before I really started Stitch Mania. So here it is. This one is The Promise of Spring by Cottage Garden Samplings, as I said, and it's fully finished. No, it's finished. Fully finished will be when I go to Michael's and buy a 12-inch stack of frames, 12-inch frames, because this board that I'm holding this on is 12 inches, and I think that's the right size for framing. I've never done framing myself, but I think that's about the right size. And 12-inch squares are easier to find than just about any other size. They happen to be on sale at Michael's right now. So anyway, there's my finish. I really love it. I love it. I love it. I love those little granny squares because they are just too cute. I thought they were quilt squares, and then I thought they were God's eyes. And then all of a sudden, the light bulb went on, and I realized that they were granny squares. Cute. Okay, Maggie S., just within the last hour, asked a question on my number 1 video, if the houses in this series are stitched over 1 because they're so little. They're not. They're stitched over 2. They're stitched the exact same way as everything else. This is 36 count Edinburgh linen. It is, I chose my own colors. It's not the suggested color. It's Weeks Dye Floss, 2 strands over 2. I think it was suggested to use 1 strand over 2, but I found that a little bit light. You know what? I think I'm gonna stick to the over 2. I like the richness of the color. And that little house, cute as it is, it's just regular stitching like the rest of the piece. But as I said, my favorite part of this one is the granny squares. And there's always a favorite part, right? I don't know about you guys, but every piece I've ever done, there is a favorite part. And maybe that changes from time to time. So yeah, that's my second finish in that series. Now let's, I think I'm gonna move on to my May 1st, May 2nd, May 3rd starts. So I'm gonna just cross out what I've already talked about, because in my failed video attempts, I keep forgetting what I've said and what I haven't said. So May starts. Here we go. May 1st, after I finished that piece, I went to work, worked all day, worked a long day in fact, came home and started the May installment of the Linens and Threads 2019 Stitch Along, which had just been released. I think it was released, I think because it's in Australia, it's released, we get it a day, we kind of get it a day early. Like it's the same time obviously, but to us it's March 30th, and in Australia it's April 1st already. So there's the little tiny bit of progress I got on the May piece. And the reason such a small amount of progress is because I started in this corner and stitched that way. Rookie error number 1. Stitch Mania fail number 1 for me on day 1. So I got about halfway through the square. I stitched for at least 2 hours on that and then realized what I was doing. Had to frog it. Then I had to smooth the fabric out because you know the way fabric looks ugly after you frog a big chunk. And then when it was all smooth and nice, I started stitching and I got very tired very quickly. And I only got about, I don't know, 50 stitches in tops. So that was a bit disappointing. I won't stitch that again now until June. I will stitch May and June together. Since those pieces are so small, once Stitch Mania is behind us, then I will resume that. Okay, day 2, which was Thursday, I started, love these fabric, or these project bags that I told you my mom made. She made more for me. I have enough for every single day now. Very lucky. Okay, so this is my second piece. For this one, I spun the Tiny Decisions app, and it came up with Baskets by Rosewood Manor. I received this kitted up the box with the Valdani threads, the fabric, and the chart for my birthday, which was in January. So it was all ready to go. All I had to do was put the floss on bobbins and put them in this picture box, and that was it. So that was kind of nice. It was the best birthday present. And here's my May 2nd progress. I'm very happy with this. On Thursdays, I don't have to be at work till a little later in the day. I have to be in for 12, so I had a little extra morning time. And morning really is the best stitching time for me anyway. So there's my start. There's one basket right here with a flower in it, and then 6 reindeer hiding behind a pink shelf. Or at least that's what it looks like. I'm sure that they will all look like flowers once I fill them in. So I love working with the Valdani threads. I had never even heard of them until I received this gift, and they feel like a dream. So I'm going to really enjoy stitching this piece. And I think I said already, that's all the called for stuff that I'm using, including the fabric color. It's all exactly as charted. So that was a fun start. Start number 3, which was yesterday, also a fail. So 2 out of 3 days so far fails. This one, I also spun the Tiny Decisions app. I'm not going to do that every day, but I did do that yesterday. And the app told me to stitch Pride and Prejudice by Primitive Hair. The only reason this is a photocopy is that I bought the PDF download and printed it at work. But I paid for it. So I already showed you this fabric last week. This is, or 2 weeks ago, this is the stuff that I dyed by myself. I like the results. What I didn't like about this piece was when I started stitching it last night or yesterday, yesterday afternoon after work, I thought, oh, that's a huge piece of fabric. I can start wherever I want. It's just huge. I don't have to worry about placement. So I just started stitching randomly. Didn't really think about it. Didn't even occur to me that I should probably measure it. So, because I thought it was small. Sometimes I think that they're bigger. Sometimes I think that they're smaller. So in this case, it's bigger again. And I started it in the wrong spot. But I'm going to keep it because I do like a 3-inch margin. This isn't going to be. It's going to be a 2-inch margin. But you know what? That's okay. Some people routinely stitch that way, and it's fine for framing. And I think it'll be fine for this. So there is the P for Pride and Prejudice. I really like the scrolling, natural-looking handwriting of this series. I'll show it to you again in the pictures so you know what I'm talking about. You can't probably see that too well. But I like it. It doesn't jump out at you from across the room. You sort of have to read it like with regular handwriting. You have to look at it. So anyway, I think that was a decent start. There's a lot of stitches in that white, that 3865. It's dense, and that whole section all the way across is going to be like that. So I think that banner is probably going to take the most time. And then probably, I'm not sure if I'm going to do these two in white or black yet. I'm going to sort of see how it feels. I'm going to probably do a combination of those two versions. Because I have a medium fabric, not light, not dark, it's just kind of medium. So that was a fun start. I know I'm going to enjoy this. I just wish that I had aimed my start point better. But what can you do? I'm not going to frog it. No way. Because I already spent an hour frogging. So there's that. Now, I'm going to cross out my starts. And now I'm going to talk about my finish from this year. I didn't show you this one. I meant to the other 2 weeks ago. I meant to show this one, but I didn't get to it. So I wanted to mention that Stitchin in the Barn, Valerie, Stitchin in the Barn, had mentioned that she hadn't stitched on silk gauze, and I remembered this piece. It's kind of been tucked away because I have to get it framed, but I typically take a bunch of stuff at the same time to the framers. So, and I I might be learning to frame my own pieces. I'm not really sure about this one yet. It has a slight special need, shall we say. So this is 30 count black gauze. And look at the way that looks in the light. These little children sort of float on the fabric, and I just absolutely love that about this. So there they are close up. Is that well focusing? Not really. This looks better when you put a black background behind it, which is how I will have it framed when the time comes. So there they are. This is called Aurora Borealis, and it's by Gita's Designs. Gita's. I can't remember the second word there. It's my local needlework store. They do their own design series. This is Inuit Children. I can't remember what the series is called. Inuit Children, I think. And these little children in their snowy coats, they're doing a whole bunch of stuff in the picture. There's one where they're playing with a polar bear. There's one where they're hanging out on the snow angels, I think. And then there's this Aurora Borealis one. The northern lights, those curtains there, those are 2 strands of Krynic in the variations, the color variations, and they're stitched up instead of across, which makes sense. I would have done that anyway if they hadn't told me, probably, maybe. But there's meant to be an echo of them above in a single strand of Krynic. And try as I might, I could not get those down. I could not get them down. Every time I tried, they were hiding behind, they were slipping, they were going all over the place. They just weren't visible. They were disappearing. And I think it's because it's a continental versus tent stitch situation. I haven't ever really caught on to the, well, this is petty point, and it's the first petty point I've done, so I probably could use a lesson. If I link to Gita's and they look at this video, they will say, bring that back, it's not doing it justice. And we will tell you how to do it in, do the second echo, with the echo above. So maybe I will, maybe I won't. I think it's fine the way it is. I think it's quite cute. And the reason that I mentioned Valerie is I just wanted to show you, that's upside down now. That is so fragile looking. Like it doesn't even look like, it just looks like a whisper. Like it's not even there. You can't see the, even when I hold it here, you can't really, you can barely see a screening sort of. Anyway, that looks like it would be light and flimsy and, you know, breakable. I'm here to tell you, not breakable. The way that the stitches lay, when you lay the stitches down on this, it's like they're stable. If you tug a little too hard on the floss, it doesn't pull the hole open like it does on fabric. It just holds it exactly where you put it. It holds it, and it's very stable. Like if I look through right now, if I look at those little squares, they're all exactly the same as when I put it on this little frame. They're just perfect. I would stitch everything on this if I could afford it, but it's like, I don't know, 30 cents a square foot or 20 cents a square foot or square inch, I should say, foot. That'd be nice. So yeah, that size piece was expensive enough. I don't think I couldn't do a big piece on that. I just kicked the table. Anyway, so that's to be framed, but it is finished. And now I'm going to show you my 4 largest finishes that I have in my home. I have other large finishes. I have the Alpine Gardens by Chatelaine. I finished that. Love it. It's at my mom's. I finished Shakespeare's Fairies last year. Love that one. That's at my mom's. My mom is very generous. You saw the project bags that she made for me. I told you about her. She's quite talented and very, very generous, and she's instilled that same notion in me. So all my best finishes, pretty much, are at her house. One day I will take my tablet over to her house and I will record a video there with some of the finishes that I've given to her. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you a bunch of finishes that I brought down from my wall so I can put them back up. And because I've tried to make this video a few times, I mentioned, so they need to go back up on the walls because the walls look bare without them. These are all heavy, and I'll probably break into a sweat. Okay, they're gonna fall over. This one is Wherefore Art Thou? This is a Nora Corbett mystery stitch along from, I'm gonna say 2017, but that's a guess. This came out in, I believe, 6 pieces, and I used DMC and the recommended beads, and I even bought that beautiful handmade bead that I just shook, and that bead is quite a good size. I don't know how big it is, but it's probably 1/2 inch and maybe bigger. And because of that one bead, when I went to get this framed, it had to be put in a shadow box. So this is very thick. You'll see. I really like it. I love the vivid colors. I think I do like vivid colors like this quite a bit. It suits my stuff. Actually, I don't know why I said that. It doesn't suit anything that I have, but how it suits my stuff is that my stuff is all kinds of different styles. So I was quite happy with that. I stitched this straight through. I don't think I came up for air while I was stitching this, and I tend to stitch that way. I tend to stitch a piece until it's done, and I tend towards large projects. So it's a good thing that we're doing Stitch Mania because I'm going to have little projects to share, because if I was doing one until it's done, like I always did do, that would make a very boring Flosstube channel, I think. To me, I think it's more exciting to show progress on different pieces. Oh my god, I just lifted that with one arm and I think I pulled it out of its socket. That's because of the size of the frame, that's why it's so heavy, and the thickness of it. This one's not as heavy. So this is another mystery. I do like mysteries, apparently. So the reason I like mysteries, I think, is because I like different styles, and because I think that they're like a box of chocolates, right? You never know what you're gonna get. It's pretty thrilling, and even if I wind up stitching something for a mystery that I probably wouldn't have chosen if I'd seen it stitched up, I like it more because it was a mystery. The mystery makes me love it, even if I wouldn't have, if that makes sense. So this is the only Joan Elliott piece I've ever stitched. This, I don't know if I'm holding it in the right spot. I'm gonna put it there. That's a bad spot. There, you can see the color's better there anyway. Yeah, that's not bad. So this piece was released by Joan Elliott at another local needlework store. I'm very, very lucky to have 2 within a reasonable drive. When Stitch at Central was in Ingersoll, they had Joan Elliott over, and she released this piece, which is called Aurora. Apparently, I really like the Northern Lights. It's on my bucket list to see the Northern Lights in a very northern, I've seen them, but not in a really crazy, amazing location where they're even more vivid. So she released this pattern at a 2-day stitching retreat. I think it was 2 days. We all signed up, got the chart, got the beads, got the floss, got the fabric, and spent a day or 2, I think it was 2 days, stitching. And then I finished that I kept stitching that until it was done. I didn't stitch anything else because I liked it so much. I said I always like something best. I love the little animals. I love that rabbit, and I absolutely love that owl. Can you see that? I feel like there's way too much glare now. I waited too late in the day. That's not going to make any difference. Anyway, I think you get the gist. That owl. That owl is gorgeous. I stitched, there's a lot of back stitching in this. I haven't done a ton of back stitching since maybe the 90s. I think most of the pieces that I've done in recent years have been back stitch free. But there was back stitching in this, and I kind of remembered how much it used to make the pictures pop. right? I mean, that was the whole point of backstitching. And it works, it still works. But I'm glad that backstitching is less important than it used to be, because it's not the most fun part. I do like the beading part, but I don't love the backstitching part. Okay, so here's another big finish. This was it's big. It didn't take long to do this one, but it's a big piece. This is Primitive Hair, and it is Endymion. So here we go. This is Endymion, which is a John Keats poem, and part of the poem is stitched into this piece. I love that border. I love the books on the bookshelf, both bookshelves. I love the spindly tree. I love the little black birds that appear around it. But I really, really love that house at the bottom. I think that's the Keats house. I think. Or Fanny's house, I'm not sure. I forget. So that was Endymion. I think I've done a lot of literary type pieces. This one, Pride and Prejudice, which I'm working on, quite a few others. I think I have a literary tendency. I really love even the Romeo one, I guess. Shakespeare's Fairies, probably more literary inspired pieces than any other. So if I had a style, that might be it. I'm gonna back up here because here's my big one. All right, so this is my one and only finish of a Heaven and Earth design. This one, I'm gonna definitely get sore arms from holding this one up. So I'm gonna try to do that on a chair here. Maybe we can make this easier. So this one took 3.5, 4 years to stitch, something like that. 4 years from start to finish, but I did take some time out in the middle to take some university courses. I upgraded my education a little bit. I lost my stitchy bug with it a couple of times because it was so... Well, if you've ever done these big, huge, full color coverage pieces, they're a thrill to start. They're a thrill to manage as you're going along, to obsess over, and they're an absolute incredible joy to finish. But sometimes the stitching feels like a little bit of a chore. Anyway, here we go. This is my pride and joy. This is Half Sick of Shadows. And I'll tell you, I was half sick of her. But I persevered and I finished. She is the Lady of Shalott. She is cursed to stay in that tower. I'm sure you all know the story of the Lady of Shalott. She can only weave her tapestry and look through this mirror, which is a reflection of a window which looks down over Camelot. She can see the goings-on at Camelot. She can see two lovers lately wed. She can see soldiers marching. She can see boats on the water, but she can't look out the window directly. She has to stay in the tower weaving. If she goes below, she will die, and I don't know why. The poem by Tennyson doesn't go into why. It's just a curse. So she does look through that reflection. She can only look in the reflection. She can't look through the window. And she sees Lancelot. And she becomes entranced by him. And she runs 3 steps from her work. And she looks out the real window. And she's so taken that she runs down the spiral staircase, out into the world, over to a boat, along the river, and before she manages to get to Camelot, she keels over and dies. Which is a sad story, but it's kind of an interesting poem, fascinating poem, which I've always loved, and depending on when I've read it, it's had different meaning for me. But at this particular time in my life, I wouldn't mind being stuck in a beautiful tower with a nice window or mirror to look through and an amazing piece of tapestry to weave. I can't think of a better way to spend my time, but I guess she was young and she was beautiful, So for her, it was a curse. When I finished this piece, which was probably 4 years ago now, I sort of leaned back in my armless chair and I struck the same pose that she is striking there. And I have a picture of that, which I'm going to try to put into this video so you can see. I'll put it in right here. It was a thrill to finish, as I said, but I was so lost. And if you ever do stitch a piece like this, I recommend that you have the next piece ready to go, because I'm telling you, I felt lost when she was done. That last of 168,000 stitches, I cried. Like I bawled. And then I paced around the house. I didn't know what to do with myself. I felt bereft. So a big finish causes a big feeling, I guess loss maybe it was. But anyway, I'm so glad I did this, and I'm so glad that I finished it. It's sort of, I think it's a once in a lifetime. I have a couple of other Haid whips, but I don't know. I don't know if I have what it takes to finish another one. I just don't know. Okay, so the details. She is stitched on 25 count Lugana, 2 strands of floss over 1 thread, full crosses. So she is thick, like rug-like thick. She's so thick that she warped this way while I was stitching her, and when I took her to the framers, we had a heck of a time straightening her out and getting her in a frame in a way that didn't lose too much. We did lose a little bit of this side. It's slightly cut off. Probably months worth of stitching, but it only represents an inch or two of, not even an inch of the bottom. If you took a metal detector to this piece, you would probably be able to locate, I'm gonna say, 100 needles. Stitching this piece made me much less precious about how my backs look. I used to worry about backs, but now I don't care, because this back is full of, like, God only knows what. It's got like dog fur, cat fur, Jennifer, you name it, it's in there. So anyway, she's done. She's on my wall. She sits over my couch. There are page lines. You can't see them in this light. I didn't know about the page line problem. If you stop, like, you can't, once you start these, you can't stop them because those page lines sort of set in. But you can't really see them unless you're looking for them. I see them. And they did bother me, but I've decided to let that go. And she's my best finish. So anyway, there you go. That's the Lady of Shalott. Probably more about her than you needed to know, but I can't help it. I just love her. And I just probably broke the frame. No, it's all good. Okay, so that's my finishes and my mania so far. And I'm under 35 minutes, so I'm 15 minutes shorter than my first video, which I'm happy about because I think it was a little bit too long. Nobody said that. Everybody was way too polite, but I thought it was a little bit too long. So I'm going to try to keep them more like a half an hour. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched this one, and for watching the first one, and for your comments, I really appreciate it. And I hope that everyone out there is having a great Stitch Mania so far. And I hope you're having fewer Stitch Mania fails than I'm having. Tomorrow I am going to a stitching retreat day from 11 till 7. And I'm hoping to meet some new local stitchers. And if you happen to be going, it's a Hamilton event, and you see me, please say hi. And I think that's everything. Happy days, happy weekend, and I will talk to you sometime soon with an update on Stitch Mania. Take care. Thanks again. Bye.